One of Nigeria's problems is the lack of adequate power supply, which many say has contributed to the slow development of the country. The current administration inherited the challenges of electricity and a sector that was deregulated. The distribution of electricity in the country is now vested in the hands of distribution companies, commonly referred to as DISCOs. Since the introduction of the prepaid meters, electricity consumers who had access to them have experienced some relief in the billing system, as they can now relatively manage their consumption and reduce wastages than in the past. Sadly, the prepaid meters are yet to go round, and many consumers are still billed based on estimation, which has not only generated controversy but led to accusations that the DISCOs are simply out to rob customers and make cutthroat profit. Some estimates show nationwide that substantial percentage of electricity consumers have not been provided prepaid meters. While there are efforts to jack up the number of prepaid meters in circulation, those still under the yoke of estimated billing are groaning over what they described as arbitrary and exaggerated electricity billing, leading to some public demonstrations in recent times.
The recent order on transitional capping of estimated bills applies to the R2 and C1.
The House of Representatives in 2018 attempted to outlaw estimated electricity billing by passing a bill seeking to reform the Power Sector Reform Act and criminalize estimated billing. The legislation did not abate the problem, and only last week, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission was compelled to officially abolish the controversial practice of estimated billing of electricity consumers by the 11 power substation companies in Nigeria.
To me, the estimated billing, I would say, is an act of injustice and imbalance on the part of Nigerians, simply because in fact, they started talking about the prepaid meter. So it will be better if that prepaid meter will be distributed to people.
I believe it should be abolished and let there be distribution of prepaid meter to all houses. That is what I believe it should happen.
What are the challenges of eliminating estimated billing, and how can this protracted issue be resolved once and for all? These and more issues are what guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be dealing with in a moment.
All right, many thanks, Kunle Adeye, for that background. Here with us in the Abuja studios to discuss this issue, let's welcome Engineer Gideon Fatumbi, his Head Metering and Laboratory Services Department of the Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency. That's NEMSA. Engineer Fatumbi, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Good morning, viewers.
All right. Also here with us in the studios is Oyebode Fadikbe. Oyebode Fadikbe is Head Corporate Communications of AEDC, that's Abuja Electricity Distribution Company. Pleasure to have you around.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. Good morning, viewers.
Okay. Yes, and also in the studio is Prince Will Okorie. Prince Will Okorie is the National President, Association of Public Policy Analysis. He is also a coordinator of Small and Medium Enterprises Electricity Consumers Protection Program and the power sector activist. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
And joining us from our Kano studios is Mohammed Abubakar. Mohammed Abubakar is the Senior Manager, Strategy and Compliance, Kano Electricity Distribution Company. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you, viewers.
We are discussing a very important matter this morning because it concerns all Nigerians, whether rich or poor. Since the introduction of prepaid metering in Nigeria, access to that piece of gadget has been a Herculean task. And one has to pass through certain ordeals to be able to get it, even when you're asked to pay for it. If you pay, you still wait for about 3 months to get it. And of course, DISCOs seem not to be in a hurry, to provide these gadgets. Reasons. And these are some of the reasons we'd like to know today. But let me begin with you as an activist. What was your reaction when you heard about the abolition of estimated billing?
I wasn't excited at all, because the whole problem borders around enforcement. Ab initio, we had estimated billing methodology in the Act, Electric Power Sector Reform Act 2005. Was it implemented? Was it enforced? We have Section 80 of the Electric Power Sector Reform Act that deals with consumer protection and licensing performance standards. Most of the standards that NEC put in place were not enforced at all. Take, for instance, under estimated billing, you were expected to go to the transformer supplying electricity to a particular area, check the quantity of energy consumed, remove the losses, share the bill, give those that are metered, and share the rest for unmetered consumers. That was never done. In most cases, the discos never went to the transformers to even identify the quantity of energy that has gone to a place. So where there is no enforcement, pronouncing that doesn't make much meaning to me. Secondly, Section 32(1)(f) of the Electric Power Sector Reform Act provided that NEC, the regulator, should be fair. That regulation should be fair to both consumers, investors, and everybody in the value chain. But you see gross partiality on the part of NEC in terms of implementation of the provisions of the Act. What do I mean by that? In the first place, do the consumers even know what the estimated billing methodology was? The one that was existing before this one. Is there consumer education? How has the consumers been educated to understand their rights in the sector? You will never hear NEC discuss Section 80, 81, and 82 of Electric Power Sector Reform Act that deals with consumer protection. And where you see a large number of consumers ignorant of the provisions of the Act that protects them, you don't expect much. So if you look at it again, they are talking about tariff. They want to ban estimated billing, but they are now approving tariff increase. How was the tariff increase done? There's another partiality there. The MITO regulation said that you will fix tariff based on available megawatts, available capacity. The available capacity generated by the GENCOs today is about 7,000 megawatts. But the distribution companies take about 3,000 megawatts out. Now, the tariff that has been increased is based on the ones taken out, that is 3,000, which will make the bill to be paid to go higher. Why not base it on what MITO regulation said? MITO regulation said it has to be based on available capacity. 7,000 megawatts is the available capacity. Where you now ignore using 7,000 megawatts to check tariff, and you are using 3,000 megawatts, you are shortchanging the consumers. So I have, me and my organization and those that believe in consumer protection, we are not excited. What we are looking at is what is the structure for monitoring and enforcement. If you have pronounced that you have banned estimated billing, in the states, what structure do you have to really monitor it? There's no consumer enumeration, and there's no structure in the states or local governments. BPE is said to be representing federal government. And they said federal, state, and local government own 40% in the value chain, in the companies. Now, who represents the interest of the states and the local governments in this value chain? Can you go to any state now and you say this is the unit of the state government that monitors revenue that comes in, that monitors the level of performance of the discos? You don't have that. Another issue that makes us feel this is not realistic is the CBN is there. Now, you hear the discos say that there is an inadequate tariff. How do you determine inadequate tariff? At least you have about 36 million consumers in Nigeria. And then what is even the NEC, what is the consumer enumeration that has been used to determine inadequate tariff? How much has the banks agreed in a transparent and accountable manner as the revenue generated by the discos based on metering and based on estimated billing all the while?
All right. Prince Will Okorie, thank you very much for your opening salvo. We will return to you in the course of the conversation. Let's bring in now Engineer Gideon Farumbi, who is of NEMSA. That's the Metering and Laboratory Services Department. Look, Okorie has raised the point with regard to consumer enumeration. So, what do we know about the census of electricity consumers in Nigeria? And therefore, how many of these enumerated consumers currently have access to meters? So what is the shortfall?
Okay, thank you. For our viewers, Nigeria Electricity Management Service Agency is actually set up to carry out the function of enforcement of technical standards and regulation, technical inspection, testing, and certification of all categories of electrical installations, electrical materials and equipment, including electricity and instruments. This to ensure quality time.
Just take my question. So
Yeah.
Just take my question.
I'm coming. Yeah. This we actually project into the question. So this, what the NEMSA is all about is enforcement, and we are there to get the right quality, right specification into the system. And if this, for us doing this, we'll be able to make sure that any meter going into the system are the outcome and integrity of the meters are well known. So getting to your question, from the statistics we have, the enumeration we have from 2012 is around 5 million. And as at today, that's at December 2019, we have 10 million. Out of that, metered customer is approximately 4.8. Then unmetered is approximately 5.2 million.
Okay, we're going to come back to you on this issue of metering. You talked about integrity and all that, because in the southeast of Nigeria, something ensued a couple of months ago when the DISCO in that area decided to recall all existing meters, whether functional or dysfunctional. Their reason was that some of them are dysfunctional, that if you make a payment of like 5,000 naira, it could last you for 3 months or more, because of that they're recalling all of them to over 400,000 pieces, and that in the interim, people will be placed on estimated billing. And then if you are going for one phase meter, it's about 39,000 or something, and then if you're going for 3 phase, about 70-something thousand, right? And the problem was then that, look, consumers said, look, if you take away our meters, then how long will it take for us to get the new ones? They say 3 months, 4 months. So within that period, you'll be on estimated billing. Well, as consumers rose against that, and I'm happy that the court has asked this goes to reverse that. Now, I am coming to you, Oyebode Fadi. Last week, you gathered some media persons, to educate us on what is going on, with respect to the increase in tariff and what have you. And now we are dealing with the issue of banning of estimated billing. What's your take?
Thank you so much. Once again, good morning, viewers, and thank you for having me on this program. Let me first of all clarify a position. Estimated billing has not been banned. What has happened is that NEC has put a ceiling that for certain area, in certain locations, you cannot go above this quantity of energy. For instance, let me take AEDC that I'm quite familiar with. In Metama, for instance, the upper ceiling is 432 kilowatts hour multiplied by the unit cost of energy. So if you take 432 times 24 naira, it will give you about 10,000 plus. If you take Ado, for instance, which is about the border town between FCT and Nasarawa State, 107 has been allocated to that area. It will give you about 2,000 naira plus. In other words, the most you can bill a customer in this axis, Ado, for instance, cannot be more than 107 units for the entire month. So estimated billing has not been banned. What the NERC has done is to put a ceiling on what the DISCOs all over the country, I have the table here, what the DISCOs all over the country can now bill customers who don't have meters. 1. 2, it is not even all categories of customers that are affected. It's just 2 classes of customers. Those you regard as R2 and those you regard as C1. R2 are residential customers. C1 are single phase and 3-phase commercial customers. So those are the classes of people. There is another class of customers that NERC says we must meter by the end of April, 30th April, which are customers who are maximum demand customers. Why did they say so? Before now, NEC had ordered that we must meter all these classes of customers. Peradventure, there are still pockets of unmetered MD customers. NEC now says by the 30th of April 2020, you must have completed all, the metering of all those classes of customers.
So not metering all, just the classes you mentioned. You're not going to, what about the other classes?
No, what I'm saying is that the classes of customers that NEC has identified for this estimated billing is R2 and C1, because in any case they form the majority. They are the bulk of the customers. Let me also say that there are customers that you classify as R1. Those ones are still paying 4 naira. There are still customers in this country who are paying 4 naira. So for those ones, NEC has even said you cannot also have 50 kilowatt hour for them. So you still have customers who are paying as low as 200 naira per month. When you cannot, when your phone, yes, that's it. Is here. It's not a It's not a document. Sorry, sir. The document is not my document. No. The document is not my document. The document is a correct document.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir.
For the clarification.
Thank you, sir.
But we also have the Senior Manager, Strategy and Compliance, Kano Electricity Distribution Company. That's Mohammed Abubakar in our Kano Network Center. Some consumers are of the opinion that to the extent that the law, that's the Electricity Sector Reform Act of 2005, provides for estimated billing, DISCOs have now latched onto that provision and they are shirking their responsibility of providing meters. And the question always is, what is the big deal about providing meters? How much is a meter, by the way?
Thank you. I want to appreciate Oyebode for the clarification. One of the major problems we're facing in the industry is that of knowledge gap. There is serious evidence of knowledge gap in the industry. In NESI, that's Nigerian Electricity Supply Industry, there is a guiding principle, which is the MITO, Multi-Year Tariff Order. It is like the holy guide for the industry. It determines all the revenue and the cost of the industry as well as the resultant tariff, end-user tariff. So what is basic there is the fact that for a DISCO to meter its customer, there must be a provision. We call it capital investment provision in the MITO. MITO 2012 actually provided for DISCOs like an average of 3.6 billion. That is paltry if you look at it, considering the capital-intensive nature of the industry, which requires investment in network, substation, and what have you. So basically, it was a responsibility of the DISCOs to provide meters. And the point here is that the CAPEX provision is insufficient. So it has become imperative for the DISCOs to actually prioritize their investment to see how it can actually impact on the industry. So, but thank God, NAC has brought a new regulation taking off the responsibility of provision of meters from DISCOs to the third party, which is the meter asset providers. Meter asset providers are a third party that are saddled with the responsibility of providing meters to the customers.
Okay, thank you. But certainly we'll come back to you for clarifications. Yes, he said that Fadi put something clear, for people to understand. He said there's a knowledge gap, between the investors and the consumers accepted. But we are talking about provision of meters. These meters are supposed to be owned by the DISCOs, but consumers pay for it. And when you pay for it, you don't even get it when you pay for it. So Kingsley was asking, what is the big deal about providing? We have countries that are highly populated, more than Nigeria, they are metered. So what is the big deal since the metering came into place? So why are we not having the meters? Why is it difficult to procure the meters? I want to bring you in again because I'm sure you have a very good idea about this.
The issue is the discos do not want to provide meters because they believe in charging Nigerians on estimation. You look, the governance structure in the privatized electricity sector is creating all these problems. For instance, you had NEMSA mention 5 million and 10 million out of 200 million Nigerians or 180 million Nigerians. The enumeration you have is 5 million or 10 million. What is the population of one state or one geopolitical zone in this country? Then again, how many Nigerians know what NEMSA is doing, for instance? Now, what the discos are doing, because there is no serious regulation, the regulators are captured in a way that they are no longer open and transparent in really enforcing the act. Because there was performance agreement signed by the discos at inception. By 2013, before the discos came on board, there was a performance agreement they signed to provide about 64 million meters over a 5-year period. They signed undertaking engage in network expansion. But none of these performance agreements have been abided by because the states are equally reluctant. They are not pushing. The local government councils are not pushing. And then the discos are taking advantage. When you declare how much, you say inadequate tariff now. The zone, southeast you mentioned, for instance, in the southeast, almost 80% of consumers are billed on estimation. Even before the metering thing you talked about. One autonomous community in southeast pay nothing less than 1 million naira every month. Because you have about 6-7 villages come together to be one autonomous community. And what they do is, at the end of the month, they dish out bills to them. And then the light they won't see. They will see just about 4 days to the end of the month. Besides, these communities bought the pole, they bought the wire, they bought the transformer. There is a matter we are intervening now on behalf of Abarizu community in Umunya Alambiri, in Mbitoli local government areas of Imo State. That community since 2014 to 2018 had no electricity because they wanted to migrate to 33 kVA. But they were compelled to pay 1.8 million naira as debt on estimation. How did they read the transformer to determine that amount of money that this community paid? Even the worst of crime in this sector is collecting the reconnection fee, which is nowhere in the act. There's nowhere in the act that it was said there must be reconnection fee. Rather, the act says if you pay, if you look at customer service standard of performance for distribution companies 2007, which is a performance standard set by NEC, it says if they disconnect you and you pay within 24 hours, you should be reconnected. It didn't say you pay a reconnection fee. But today, what happens? You are disconnected, the wire is taken away from you. The wire you bought with your money is taken away from you. When they are to reconnect you, you pay for reconnection. And the act also provided that you are entitled to 10 days notice before disconnection. But there are situations where the disco organization will just come to you that same day as they're giving you bill, they're climbing to disconnect you. That they disconnect you and put you in darkness. And the NEC provided a very good grant for them and said they set up a consumer forum. This consumer forum, they say first of all, you report to the customer unit of the disco. After 15 days, you now go to NEC. NEC wait for another 15 days. You'll be in darkness for 15 days to report to the disco. You'll be in darkness another 15 days for NEC to begin to act. And then only God knows. So the frustration in remaining in darkness will make the consumer always go to pay. Because the system is not structured in such a way that is consumer friendly.
Well, I was just wondering, Principal, thanks a lot. Oyebode Fadikwe, look, NEMSA says you have an estimated 5.2 million consumers without meters. Back to the question, what is the big deal in providing meters? What is the big deal? How much is a meter? How much?
Okay. Now, the big deal, and I'm sure that's what the gentleman from Kano was trying to lay a foundation for, is the issue of liquidity, fair and square. That's one. Two.
Explain that.
Yes. I just want to identify 2 points. One, the issue of liquidity. Secondly, is the fact that availability is also a major issue. Now, let's come back to the issue of liquidity. One conversation, whether we like it or not, that has been topical in the power sector is the issue of cost reflective tariff. Now, if it is not an issue it will not be debated. I remember that, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, I had the honor of sitting now in this same studio with Dr. Sam Amadi and then Professor Oke at the other end of the conversation. And Dr. Sam Amadi did a critical analysis of how we got to the point we are and what we need to do to move away from that point. I don't intend to add anything other than just to remind Nigerians that, look, the cost at which electricity is being sold today does not give you the ability to recover the cost and then go ahead to do investments. There are two critical points in any business. One, you recover cost. Two, you have a compensation for the business that you are doing so that that business can continue to be a going concern. Meter is a critical component because it goes to the integrity of the bill. And if the meter is not there, the customer and the service provider, the two of them are open to this contention. You are cheating me? No, I am not cheating you. That's the contention that is happening here. So the issue of what is the big deal about provision of meter goes to one, the question of liquidity. How much do the discos have to invest in all the components that they require to provide electricity? One of them is metering, one of them is the network improvement, which goes to the issue of the lines and transformers and other ancillary facilities that you require. Let me just say, with due respect, Oga Kirian, let me just take the other point. The other point is the issue of availability. How many metering companies in this country can flood the entire Nigerian nation as we did in the issue of telecom? You know, when telecom came, almost everywhere you could get a telephone, no matter how small, whether you call it I better pass my neighbor or you call it Pasala or whatever name you want to call it, before you now started upgrading.
No, I'm sorry, Kirian, I know you're going to come in here. Let's get this clear.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Oyebode Fadikpe.
Yes, sir.
When GSM was launched in 2001,
yes, sir,
GSM wasn't uniformly available throughout the country.
I agree.
The GSM operators started gradually in major cities and then began expanding their networks. Exactly. If you recall, in 2003, there was a strike by GSM customers.
Yes.
They went on a boycott of GSM services.
Yes, sir.
It was organized in this country, 2003.
Yes, sir.
Because people were complaining about the quality of their services, and then they were now compelled to begin to roll out more base stations because not everywhere you could get their services. So we are talking about, I better pass my neighbor, that is the handset, not the base stations and then the connectivity.
We're talking about. Sorry, sir. I still have the floor. I still have the floor, please, Mr. Principal. I still have the floor. The point I'm trying to make with GSM is that the handset itself was a bit common to access. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay. Different from the base station facilities, which is our own transformer, our own distribution substation, our own injection substations. That's the point I am trying to make.
Okay.
Yes, that's the point.
Yes. There was one product called something. They said if it dropped, you could repackage it.
Now, you have made that point.
Thank you very much.
It's very clear. No. Before we come to you, you see, we're talking about meters. And I want to believe, quite frankly, that the investors in this sector did not take cognizance of any kind of a developmental approach to this. Because initially with the economy, they came in with estimated billing. Beautiful thing for them. They're making their money. This time around, Nigerians are becoming more sensitive. We paid for this meter. I paid for mine. Now, when you say flooding the market with meters, don't they have, can't they be imported? If you can't have the one you can manufacture locally, can't they be imported? Excuse me, sir. We are paying for it in the first place. If you are installing meter free of charge, of course it's part of your component, fine. But we are still paying for it, so make it available for us to buy. What happened in the Southeast was that, look, they said, look, if you pay, you wait for 3 months. That was why people said no. If you want to remove my old meter and replace it with your new meter, do it on a particular day, and then transaction continues. In this case, you ask me to pay, you will not provide it. That is the fear of consumers. And I want to return to him.
Return to the gentleman. Fadikpe, please, hold on. Let's pause you. Okay, Fadikpe says flood the market. So you want to bring it to 5.2 meters at the same time. Can't you do it gradually?
Exactly.
Assuming we had 1 million meters last year, or 2 million meters last year, we wouldn't be talking about 5.2 meters this year. Exactly. Must you flood the entire place? so that people will drown?
Now I'm coming to you, Gideon Fatumbi, on the integrity of the meters. Why in the southeast that the DISCO said they're recalling the other ones and want to replace them with the new one? What is there any difference between meter and each other? Is there any difference?
Thank you. I want to re-emphasize again that NEMSA mandate is to prevent substandard meters being deployed into the market or into the system or being installed at the customer site. What is happening at the end, there was issue of decommissioning. We've stepped on that. We've sent a mail across to all the DISCOs that they should stop decommissioning because there's a process. Because if they continue with the decommissioning, then it's going to have serious effect on the metering and on the MAP regulation. Because MAP said it want to close the gap. Now, the DISCOs are decommissioning. So the whole thing is being mixed up. And there is a process before you even carry out the decommissioning. And we've already educated them on what needs to be done. So presently, I can tell you confidently that all of them have stopped the decommissioning and they are now following the right process required before that can be done.
What is the process, please?
Yeah, the process is they need to get no objection, then come to NEMSA. We are going to carry out a test to confirm the integrity of those meters. We need to confirm, are they, what the DISCOs are saying, is it actually true? Are the meter not functioning well? So based on that, based on our own test, we will call recertification. We need to check those meters in question to confirm the status of them before anything can be done on that.
What is the integrity of meters in Nigeria today, the current ones in Nigeria?
No, you can't just pick it an
because I believe you have been testing now, so we want to know whether the ones...
Okay, you need to get it clear. When any meter comes into the country, must pass through NEMSA first.
Okay.
Then
Engineer Farumbi, for the benefit of our viewers, integrity of meters is fine. But let's just say we want to get these meters to consumers. What is the big deal? If you look at the shoes that you gentlemen are wearing, particularly those of you in the energy sector, including Korea, these look like handcrafted shoes. You know, handcrafted shoes take a much longer time to produce rather than machine-made shoes. Are meters handcrafted that it will take almost a decade to get 1 meter out, then you bring it to... what is the big deal? What do you know about this?
I think Mr. Fadipe has said something earlier regarding finances. I think that's the major
But people are paying for the meter. What about fund? What is fund all about? The people are paying for this meter. So what is the fund you were talking about? Many people are willing to pay for the meter.
Say something along the line of your handcrafted shoes.
Thank you for the handcrafted shoes. But I know where this shoe was made. It was made in Aba. So if they are doing handcrafted shoes in Aba now, let them also give us meters that we can pick easily. But coming to the issue specifically, before now, what we had was CAPME, and it was also customer funded. Let's also backtrack a little bit. PACN, then NEPA. I have said it before, and I want to say it again, and I stand to be corrected. Meter has not been at the same pace of customers' demand. It grew a little bit worse towards the privatization, and that's why government brilliantly came up with the issue of CAPME. Again, it was on the basis of liquidity, that if the DISCOs then, or the then NEPA or PACN cannot fund it, let customers advance the money. So this problem is not a fresh problem. It's not as if it was when the DISCOs came or post-privatization that this issue of liquidity came in. Just hold on, sir. Mr. Prince, you will hold on.
We'll come to you.
Hold on, sir. Please, I think you will have your floor, sir. You will have your point, sir. Now, coming after CAPME, The discos took it on. The problem was still there. Now we have come to MAP, and discos have been asked to hands off. Why is it that all the maps in the country have also not been able to meet up with the demand that is on ground? That's the question we should ask ourselves.
And yet,
Yes,
Mohammed Abubakar,
yes, sir.
And yet, we keep hearing from the discourse about cost recovery, that you are not able to collect, tariff from users of the electricity. If people have meters, they don't need to come to your office. Your people don't need to go there to go. They will come and buy credit from you. The money goes into your pocket. So what is it? I keep asking this question. You have to pardon my ignorance. What is the big deal? 5.2 million. How much is the cost of 1 meter? Is it up to 100,000? And must you flood the market in 1 month? Can you not be doing it phase by phase? You are talking about cost recovery, but people don't have meters. So how would they pay you? How would they buy credit? It's like, hold on a second. My question is to Mohammed in Abuja. It's like, have you heard any GSM company complain about cost recovery? If you don't have airtime on your phone, you go and buy. If you don't buy, you won't have access. What is the problem? What's the problem?
You see, it's really wrong to do such an analogy of telecom industry with power sector. There is what we call, public good and private good. The difference between public good and a private good is that ability to exclude those that cannot afford. But if you look at telecoms, it's a fully private good, which allows for, excludability of those that cannot afford. In the power sector, the situation is different. It's a kind of quasi-public good, if you ask me. Exclusion is almost impossible because we have our lines passing through every nook and cranny of the country. But let me take us memory lane and bring us up to speed. Like I said earlier, one of the major problems we are battling with in this industry is that of knowledge gap. And I want to try as much as possible to do a kind of a clarification. Like everybody said, MITO actually provide for the liquidity for the industry. And over the last 6 years, the industry has been operating under cost-reflective tariff. The tariff that have been charged the end users are actually below the cost-reflective level, which has made the government to give intervention so far to the tune of 1.3 trillion naira so far. So, like you asked, the major challenge of provision of meters is the investment. There are two options. You either whatever is invested or spent in the industry is recovered through the end user tariff. So if you want to add the cost of meters to the cost of the industry, you provide in the capex provision such that it will be couped through the end user tariff. That is the first option. The second option is to allow the customers to fund it. But at the moment, what I'm saying is that the responsibility of meter provision have been taken off the DISCO. We have a party that has to deal with this responsibility. But at the moment, there are issues of, policy somersault. The meter providers have been procured. The prices have been agreed, like you said earlier in your opening remark. Single phase is 37 naira. And 3-phase is 67 naira. Within the same time period, the government has actually changed a fiscal policy of import duties on meters from 10% to 45%. That has technically crowded out the margin that the MAP are out to gain. So these are some of the challenges in the industry. And as far as I'm concerned, there is too much grammar in the industry. We need to break it down and make people understand. We have to, beyond all the resentment, I think we need to open our hearts and understand what the challenges of this industry are. Kano Disco, my area of operation that I'm conversant with, I think in our performance agreement, like the comrade said, is to provide 500,000 meters in 5 years. If and only if it is provided for in the MITO. In the first year of our operation, we actually provided 100,000 meters as promised. And we distributed these meters to our customers free of charge. But the challenge is that we had situations where people were revolting against the meters, that they preferred to be billed on estimation. And when we insisted, based on the regulation of the NAC, and we run a pilot, particularly in a particular feeder that within our franchise area that is enjoying 24-hour supply. We deployed about 28,000 meters in that feeder just to monitor the energy consumption and the willingness to accept meters. But to our dismay, over the when we reviewed like the 6-month vending history, we got average of about 3,000 meters out of 28,000 meters we deployed that were vending on a regular basis.
All right, thank you, Mohammed. Thank you indeed. You've made your point, is well taken. And the good thing is that we are appreciate the fact that there is a problem in this sector and that has to be ironed out. Let's bring you in, Okorie, just for 1 minute, just to address some issues you raised.
In the first place, liquidity that is being talked about. Ask, how much do discos pay to the generation companies who are generating this electricity? They pay them about 20-25%. If you go check the records, they don't pay the discos properly. Go and ask how much is MBET given to the generation companies. Yet they complain about liquidity. Federal government has borrowed all manner of money and given to the discos. But suffice it to say, there are independent electricity production networks that are licensed by NEC, independent electricity distribution networks, like PIPP Vietnam in Lagos. They are supplying electricity to Lagos State. It's private. They are not complaining about money. And the people that are supplying are not complaining about estimated billing or meter. It is willing buyer, willing seller. There is competition. They are working with Ogun State. They are supplying them electricity, no problem. Well, how come that the discos that are registered will not be complaining? Come to the issue of metering, which NEMSA is talking about. The calibration of most of these meters. In Enugu, for instance, when House of Assembly had a program, I was a resource person. The complaint was that most of the meters were so calibrated that the rate at which they were running was beyond the understanding of the people. What is the staff strength of NEMSA to be able to really look at all these meters that are supplied? And then do NEMSA work with civil society groups? Now, if you look at it, even INEC that is conducting elections, because of the need for transparency and accountability, they relate with civil society groups. Ask NEMSA, ask AEDC, which consumer groups do they relate with to be able to monitor these things and bring information to the knowledge of the people?
All right.
But finally, sir, let me tell you this.
Take this along. It's very important. Because they say they are not able to recover their cost, and yet the discos, most if not all of them, keep rejecting power. As we speak now, I'm sure there are several parts of the Edo Benin distribution area where they don't get power for more than 6 hours in a day. 6 hours, the power, they say the power is there. TCN brings it. They will say, no, we are not taking. And yet you say you don't have money. What is responsible?
They don't want to pay. Look at the Gencos are crying because they are not being paid what they are giving to them, and they refuse to take them. Then again, if you want to ask, they are talking about liquidity. How many infrastructure, how many transformers can the discos say they have supplied since 2013? How many poles and wire have they provided? If they are complaining of liquidity. Was there no feasibility study done before they came in?
Okorie, full stop. Not pause, full stop. Oyebode Fadikwe, tell us, I mean, why are some of your members rejecting power and then you say you don't have money?
It's strange to say that discos are rejecting power. It's quite strange. I mean, take for instance, again, let's use AEDC as a case study. About 2 weeks ago, I did a small arithmetic. I mean, we can do it here. There are about 168 hours in a week. We didn't get power for 130 hours. For 130 hours. We are at the end point We didn't get power from the next level of power supplier. So what do we do?
In fact, we have to pause it here. We didn't have to pause it here. We'll take it from here for another day. We're going to assemble again for this very issue.
Whether they really generated or not.
Don't worry, April is just around the corner. By the time we get there, we know the next step. We have no time for you to contribute anymore. We are rounding off this edition of the program. I want to appreciate all of you for being part of the show.
Yeah, we can't take these tweets now.
Yes, the tweets, there's no time for it. So, first of all, let's thank Engineer Gideon Fatumbi, Head, Metering and Laboratory Services Department, Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency, NEMSA. But thank you for being here this morning. Oyebode Fadibe, Head, Corporate Communications, Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, AEDC. We've heard from you. Thank you indeed for your submissions. And Prince Olokorie, the man on the consumer side, the National President Association of Public Policy Analysis. He's also a coordinator of Small and Medium Enterprises Electricity Consumers Protection Program and a power sector activist. We appreciate your contribution.
Thank you very much.
All right. And from Kano, we had Mohammed Abubakar, Senior Manager Strategy and Compliance, Kano Electricity Distribution Company. Thank you also for being here this morning. You see how we call it a day on this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. We will return tomorrow for another edition of your early morning show on TV. My name is Kirian Umai.
And Kirian, I'm Kingsley Osadola. But just to add that the more you listen to the discourse about cost-reflective tariff, it's like you are listening to advocates of deregulation of the petroleum downstream sector. They will say, unless you have cost-reflective tariff XYZ, you are not likely to have new refineries being built by private investors. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to get back to see these guys yet again. All right. So do have a lovely day ahead of you.